want to thank you for your ongoing interest in the discussions here at the 5G Manufacturing Forum. In this session, we're going to focus in on security, particularly how to mitigate risks in a increasingly digitized world. And we've got a great speaker in Ande Hazard, Vice President of Manufacturing Solutions for AT&T. So Ande, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So first and foremost, we talk a lot about digital transformation for X industry, but it's not like flipping a light switch. This is a long-term journey in investing in technology, people, processes. But I'm curious to understand from you how, as your customers go down this path of digitalization, the way they think about data security and data sovereignty is kind of evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would start with, over the last 18 months, customers across industries and particularly manufacturing, they really had to reassess how they look at their operating models and their processes and more. And from the pandemic, what we are continuing to see is an elevated amount of digital connectivity needs, both for the IT organizations and the OT organizations, right? And trying to support the shift to not only remote workers, but an extended network. An edge-oriented network, as well as trying to manage the complexity of the supply chain and the challenges there. Many of our customers in smart factories are enabled either with a 5G type connection or some form of advanced wireless. So what we're seeing is a great deal amount of innovation that comes from that with IoT devices within the factory. But then you also are having, in parallel, you're shifting the network landscape and the security landscape because the cloud adoption and again, the edge component of that is going to drive some different levels of the needs for visibility, for security resiliency, for efficiency. So it's all kind of coming together in those different buckets. And then if you overarch cybersecurity to that, the challenges are growing as well, because as you innovate with IoT devices in a smart factory, you are potentially exposing more of your OT systems to the internet. And internet criminals and challenges there. You have kind of the reemergence of Mirai and variants of that. And that is just spreading the exposure potentially of IoT attacks within those factories and supply chain. So as you look at the OT factor specifically, looking to enable security techniques against those particular assets has to be a part of kind of the ongoing conditioning an approach to cybersecurity and to risk management. So it has to start weaving in just like we do with traditional IT cybersecurity postures and approaches. And then obviously, as we look at manufacturers, they're critical infrastructure, if you will, right, to the global economy. We know that they are the suppliers to the healthcare industries, the retail industries. So having those assets not properly secured has ripple effects across under other industries. That's really important to take stock in. And then lastly, brand factor. Brand image is huge right now across any company, but particularly for manufacturers, right? Customers want to know that those companies are investing in data privacy and data security, and they're taking it seriously. So those are all kind of factors that we're seeing through this simplistic term of digital transformation.
Yeah, so really a dynamic threat landscape that has implications beyond just an IT system all the way out to brand. So that's a really interesting point to maybe explore it further when you've got a manufacturer who's installing IoT devices, connecting legacy and new assets, and then conducting data processing at a really high rate. What are some of the best practices that they can integrate into their business to make sure that they maintain as robust a security posture as possible?
Yeah, I'll take it to probably about 3 areas that we see as critical. The first is getting good alignment and collaboration between the IT organizations, the business units, and the OT organizations. I think historically we have seen the security requirements inconsistent or at least separated, right, between those organizations. They're having to collide now, not only because of the exposure of the IoT devices, for example, but in general across that supply chain, the criticality of how they are now woven into each other between IT and OT in and of itself drives that demand for safeguarding your data and IoT devices. So I think that need to bring those organizations closer at a security level is critical. Every new connection that is added, for example, to a smart factory or to a manufacturer, every new endpoint introduces more risk and vulnerability, right, to those customers and to those manufacturers, and it grows the attack surface. So that has to be considered, and it can't be, in a bubble of OT versus IT, right? All of that has to be considered as part of the overall attack surface and then the risk management to it. And then looking at the approach of never trust, always verify is important as well. It goes across wired and wireless technologies in these factories and manufacturers. It has to ensure that all points, all endpoints are validated, because those become the exposure points to a company. And then lastly, obviously, the term zero trust, very popular, right? It's well spoken across businesses, but in manufacturing in particular, being able to approach it as in a strategic way with security, making it a part of either the digital transformation itself, or zero trust in being able to protect kind of this distributed network that we're seeing, as well as a distributed workforce. And zero trust is really critical in that, being able to defend the cyber physical environment with those risk dynamics, and really that risk being entered with more of these IoT-enabled devices. So being able to defend in that way is critical. And then lastly, recognizing the ability to see failings in the supply chain with zero trust, and being able to address it either in the creation, the manufacturing, the delivery of those products without fully interrupting operations. So being able to respond in that agile way is going to continue to be critical in this space.
So a keen eye on security is going to be really key for manufacturers looking to leverage 5G and other technologies to really transform their operations. But I was hoping you could maybe talk to us a little bit about that bigger picture. I know AT&T's worked with a number of partners to really showcase what you can do when you combine 5G, mobile edge computing, IoT, and other technologies in a manufacturing environment. So can you maybe tell us about some of the applications that you and your partners are working on, and how those map to business outcomes that manufacturers want to achieve?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you one really good example, which is MXD, which is based in Chicago. It's Manufacturing to Digital is the acronym for it, but it's a research facility that we've been partnering with for a number of years now. It allows customers, and specifically manufacturers, to utilize this 22,000 square foot facility to test and demonstrate new technologies to help move them through the digital transformation. It's a very hands-on environment with multiple partners, AT&T being one of them, and it really allows them a chance to look at those solutions that can help them optimize their operations, improve safety measurements, and potentially even cost improvements. So we have specifically stood up an area for AT&T that is 5G millimeter wave enabled. It is leveraging the multi-access edge compute, or MEC network technology, and it's coupling then the solution of a video intelligence IoT platform. So we've unveiled some new demos in MXD recently on that platform, and that video intelligence is a wonderful solution. It's a full end-to-end solution that allows our manufacturers to garner intel from the video cameras, both in public and private spaces within the facility, and it allows them to identify kind of that data, and the software behind it analyzes inventory management, safety concerns, as well as production failures or flaws, and it has an alerting system, right? So it's taking the video element and really putting an AI version to it, enabling that at real-time speeds, because we're using the 5G plus millimeter wave, as well as a multi-access edge computing model within the facility. So it also provides a secure environment for that data to be managed, analyzed, and responded upon. And so as we look at MXD and partners like them, this ability for our customers to mimic their own environment within a facility like this and explore what those technologies could do to enable them further. And then you have the enhancement of our 5G platform and MEC with it. So we're really bullish about the partnership with MXD. I think it gives our customers a wonderful way to open up the door to create and to test and learn about use cases that they haven't perhaps even thought of that would be advantageous to their manufacturing operations.
Well, Andy, I really appreciate you taking the time to highlight the role security should be playing in digital transformation strategies, and tell us about the work AT&T is doing to bring 5G into the manufacturing space.
Thank you for having me.